Hi everybody, my name is Sam Pedro. Today I'm going to be reviewing the book My Life with Bob, which is written by Pamela Paul. She is the editor of the New York Times book review. And yeah, just going to quickly review this book and share some of my thoughts and my takeaways. So who is Bob and what is this book about? So Bob is actually an acronym and it stands for Book of Books. And essentially, Pamela Paul has this journal or this notebook, which she calls Bob, and it stands for Book of Books. And she puts every book she's ever read into this journal. And she's been doing this since she was a teenager. So every time she reads a book, she'll go and put it into this book. And essentially, this book is kind of a memoir about her own life and how books have interacted with her life and how they have defined certain segments of her life. I was interested in reading this book because I like the idea of keeping lists, especially book lists, and I do it in my own life where I keep track of every book that I've read, along with other things as well. And so I really liked that idea of someone who loves books, has spent her whole life reading books, and has kept this big list of everything she's read. And so I was really interested in that idea. I can connect with that. And so that's what made me want to check this book out. The book itself is essentially Pamela Paul looking back on her life. And she has different parts of her life. And she's telling what book she was reading at the time. And then also what issues and problems she was facing in her own life. And these are kind of like key moments for her. So time as a teenager, her time in college and after college, and then her career as well. And she just kind of walks us through that, again, through the lens of what she was reading at the time. For me, this was my favorite part of the book, and that's the idea of interpreting your own life through what, I guess, media you're consuming. Because when I look back at my own life, my interests have changed, and they changed pretty often. So when I look back 10 years ago, and I look at what I was reading and what I was listening to or what I was watching, I can make connections with what was happening in my real life and what I was reading and consuming over here. And it's just kind of interesting, especially with music for me, when I think back about what I was listening to and what was going on and how things changed and maybe how my music interests changed. So it's something I think a lot of people can connect with, especially people who like books and who read books. Because I read a lot, and when I look back at this list that I personally have of what I've read, I can kind of remember what's going on in my life, what I was thinking, why I kept reading, maybe books around a certain topic area or a certain subject, and I can make those connections now. So I think from the book, My Life with Bob, that is probably the biggest idea I took away, that, this is a very natural thing, and how can I learn more about my own life through what I am reading and listening to and watching. Pamela Paul is obviously a really good writer if she's the editor of the New York Times book review. And as I read, I could definitely tell it was well written, well crafted. I was entertained throughout the whole book. And so, yeah, for the most part, I would say I was really entertained in this book. I don't think it's like an exceptional book where I have to read this again, or I have to tell everybody, you need to read this book, drop what you're doing, go read it. That's not what this book is, at least for me. But it was good connecting with someone who reads a lot, thinks a lot about what she's reading, and thinks a lot about what that means in her life. As far as downsides for the book, I think the only complaint I have was, I was a little bored with her life at times. And I know this is a memoir, but I think sometimes I wished she was talking more about books and reading, and instead we get more of her own personal life. And I would have loved to hear more of her thoughts and ideas on reading and books and why she chose certain books, or maybe even just how her list looks or worked. Because for the most part, you just get little snippets of, I was reading these books, and then let me talk about my life. So not the biggest complaint, because like I mentioned already, I was still really entertained, and I liked and enjoyed the book. But I wish there was a little bit more about reading and books. But overall, if you're somebody who reads a lot and maybe even keeps a book list religiously like Pamela Paul has, I think you would enjoy this book. I think you'll connect with the author. I definitely did as I read through it. And yeah, I was entertained and I liked it. So this was my review of My Life with Bob, which was written by Pamela Paul. Comment below if you've read the book, Or maybe even if you keep book lists, do you keep it religiously? Do you have a list going back through your whole life of every book you've read? Interested to see if people are actually doing that. And yeah, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.